Welcome back, YouTube. You are watching Living the Denver Boulder Lifestyle. My name is Rachel Kennedy, and today I'm going to be talking to you about my personal list of the top 3 suburbs to live in the Denver area. So if you watch our video from last week, we talked about the top 3 suburbs according to niche.com, and I had a bone to pick with them a couple times because a couple of the suburbs that they mentioned in there I didn't feel like were true suburbs of Denver. So I felt the need to put together my own list, and that's what we're going to be digging into today. So before we get started, I would love to have you click that subscribe and that notification button so that you get notified every time I put out new videos, which is every Thursday afternoon. All right, let's get started. All right, so before we dig into these top 3 suburbs, according to yours truly, I put these videos together so that you have a great resource to come to when learning about relocating here to the Denver area. As much as I love putting these videos together, I would love even more to help you with those real estate needs. So if I can be a resource, please feel free to hit me up on that number or that email that is popping up on your screen below. All right, let's dig into these suburbs. All right, so the first suburb we're going to be talking about today is Golden. And I have to say that the 3 suburbs that we're going to talk about today are in no particular order. So definitely don't take the fact that we're talking about Golden first to mean that this is the #1 suburb according to myself. I think each of these suburbs lend itself to different aspects or different ways of life. So it kind of depends on what you are looking for. Golden is the westernmost suburb of the Denver area. It sits right up against the foothills and is definitely set aside from the city itself. So I like this because it does not get a lot of like city traffic. Golden is kind of like confined to itself. The people that live in Golden or go to Golden are going there for a specific reason. They're not necessarily passing through Golden, which means that the traffic, is all relatively local. And because it does sit right at the base of the foothills, you have hiking right out your back door. And a lot of the neighborhoods in Golden will have hiking trails that literally start right in the neighborhood. So this is amazing for Colorado lifestyle, right? A lot of the people that come out here are coming out here because they love to hike, bike, fish, all the things that Colorado offers. And when you live in Golden, it's literally right outside your back door. Golden is even located right next door to Golden Gate Canyon State Park, which is just 14 miles away. And Golden Gate Canyon State Park is this huge park open to the public that offers itself to hiking, biking, hunting, camping, all kinds of stuff. You can do snowshoeing in the winter time. So year-round activities, and having that 14 miles away from Golden is definitely a huge perk. So Golden itself is a relatively small town, and you can definitely feel that when you come into Golden. The population is just over 20,000 people, and it does have a cute little downtown area. But other than that, there's no big box stores within Golden. You're not going to find your Home Depot. You're not going to find your Target. You're going to have to travel outside of Golden to get to those amenities. Golden is kind of known for being Denver's mountain town before you get into like the true mountain towns. So I would almost refer to Golden as like the starter mountain town. So let's talk about the downtown area of Golden. As I mentioned, there are a ton of shops and locally owned restaurants, bars, breweries, etc. down there. Golden definitely is not known for having a great food scene, but it is getting better and better. One of my favorites in Golden is called a Bayhouse. So if you ever make it down to Golden, make sure you check out a Bayhouse for either brunch on Saturday or Sunday or dinner. The city of Golden is really great at hosting lots of community events throughout the year. So you'll find anywhere from a Christmas parade to a spring event. There is a river that runs through the downtown area. So in the summertime, summertime, you'll find a ton of like tubing and kayaking events happening in the town. Really, whether it's winter or summer, you're gonna find a lot of activity in that downtown Golden area. It's just really, really charming, and people love to hang out. Even if you just go grab a coffee and go sit by the river, it's really charming. Golden is home to the School of Mines, which is the first public school in the state of Colorado. So it's the oldest public university in the state, and the School of Mines is an engineering school. So I mentioned that the fact that it's an engineering school because the students that go to the School of Mines definitely are on a bit different scale than those students that go to, let's say, CU Boulder. CU Boulder is known for being a pretty big party school, and you definitely don't see that at the School of Mines. They're definitely a bit more even-keeled student population there at the School of Mines. All right, so let's talk about the schools in Golden. Golden feeds into the Jeffco County School District, which is the largest school district in the state. So when you look at a map of the Jeffco County schools, you'll see that it covers a ton of territory. Now, the perk of this is the fact that we function on a school of choice enrollment, which means that you can choice into any of those schools within that district. The con of that is that it is a really big district, and so that district is serving a lot of different schools, a lot of different students, so sometimes their budget is spread a little bit thin. In Golden proper, there are several different elementary schools that get really, really high accolades, and Golden High School itself is also very highly rated. So a lot of the people that live in Golden don't necessarily travel outside of Golden to put their kids into a specific school because you have great options right there in Golden. So because Golden is set against the foothills and it doesn't have a ton of space to spread out, the housing prices tend to be on the more expensive side. So demand often outweighs supply, and there's not a ton of room to build new inventory, which keeps those housing prices escalated. The average housing price in Golden is $850,000, but you can run the gamut as well. You can find a studio condo right in the city center of charming downtown Golden for $430,000, all the way up to $7.2 million for a 20-acre, 20,000 square foot living space estate. All right, so why did Golden make the list of the top 3 suburbs? What do I like about it? It has a very, very charming small town feel without having transient traffic coming through, so it does tend to feel like a very quiet town. And because of Golden's location right up against the foothills and super close to Golden Gate Canyon State Park, it lends itself to all of the plethora of outdoor activities that Coloradans love. So you have your hiking, you have your biking, you have your fishing, all of it really, really easy access right out your front door. And then last but not least, Golden is really convenient to skip a lot of that I-70 traffic on the weekends to head up to the ski hills. So a lot of times I-70 will get backed up with traffic coming out of the city into the mountains all the way from Friday mid-afternoon into Saturday mid-afternoon, and then again all day Sunday. That highway is going to be packed and you're definitely going to be sitting in traffic. But if you live in Golden, you have access to Highway 6, which runs through Clear Creek Canyon. And that lets you skip a big chunk of I-70 and thus skipping that traffic. All right, and what do I not like about Golden? There's always got to be some cons, right? Not everything can be rosy. So I don't like the fact that the food scene in Golden leaves something to be desired. But over the last couple of years, we've definitely seen some of those old Golden staples turn over to new ownership and change their concepts. So slowly but surely, Golden is definitely gaining in its food scene notoriety. I don't love the fact that you don't have those easy amenities right within Golden. So you definitely are going to travel at least another 20 minutes outside of Golden to get to your Target, to get to your Home Depot or your Whole Foods. There are grocery stores within Golden. Anything outside of just your basic grocery store, you're gonna have to travel outside the city for. And then my last gripe with Golden is the housing affordability. Because there isn't a ton of room to grow in Golden, that keeps those housing prices high. So that can be a pro and a con, right? If you're moving into Golden, you know that it's not going to blow up and it's not going to, you're not moving into a small town that eventually becomes this big city. But your housing price is going to be a little bit on the higher side in order to enter into it. So the second suburb that made the list is Castle Rock. Now, if you remember from last week's video, Castle Pines got a shout out by niche.com, and Castle Rock is actually right next door to Castle Pines. But why I gave Castle Rock a bigger shout out in my personal list is because Castle Rock, I think, has more of the charm that brings people down to the Castle Pines area. So Castle Rock is located about 30 minutes south of downtown Denver, right along I-25. The population of Castle Rock is 73,000 people, which is about 3 times as big as Golden. Castle Rock got its name for the rock outcropping that sits atop a small mountain in the center of Castle Rock that looks like a castle. Castle Rock was named one of the safest suburbs to live in the entire nation. Castle Rock sits at about 6,200 feet above sea level, and for reference, the city of Denver is 5,280 feet above sea level. So we have a little bit of an elevation gain here in Castle Rock, but the topography is very plains meets this mountain feel. Well, you get this kind of like mountain living feel, you don't have the elevation gain that goes along with it. So those who are moving out here with some health concerns that maybe wouldn't allow you to live at a higher elevation, this would be a really great option for you. Those with asthma, COPD, you'd be safe here. And because Castle Rock is located 30 minutes south of downtown Denver, almost 80% of the people that live in Castle Rock actually commute to either Colorado Springs, which is about 20 minutes south of Castle Rock, or they commute north about 20 minutes to the Denver Tech Center. So very rarely will you find that Castle Rock residents are living or working within Castle Rock itself. The schools in Castle Rock feed into Douglas County School District, which operates 18 public schools within Castle Rock itself. And then there's also a handful of private schools to choose from as well. So let's talk home prices. You can find the whole range here in Castle Rock, from $200,000 for a 1-bedroom, 1-bath condo to $500,000 for a 1,200 square foot single family home that's move-in ready, all the way up to $6.5 million for a 20-acre equestrian ranch. So you really can fit every single budget here in Castle Rock. There is also several new developments coming into Castle Rock, which allows you to step into a new build. There are several new build communities that are coming into the Castle Rock area. We have 4 notable, pretty big plan unit development communities that are currently being developed, and several different builders to choose from in those areas, everywhere from D.R. Horton, which is typically a first-time home buyer, budget-friendly builder, all the way up to Richmond American Homes, which can build all the way up into the millions. And there's also a handful of custom builders that are building in the $4, $5, $6 million range. While $700,000 is the average home price in Castle Rock, you can find anything from $630,000 for a brand new build single family home, all the way up to $4.5 million for a custom home in the Castle Pines gated golf course community. All right, so what do I like about Castle Rock? I love the charming downtown area. You really cannot find a more charming downtown space, especially around the holidays. There are tons of locally owned shops, restaurants, food halls, you name it, you could entertain yourself for a couple days down there. I also love the fact that you have a wide range of housing options, all the way from $200,000 for a first-time home buyer into the multi-million-dollar luxury new builds and everything in between. Probably one of my favorite things about Castle Rock is the fact that you are achieving a really small town feel, but you still have access to the tech center or even downtown Denver. And you also have access to those big box amenity stores. You have your Target, you have your Home Depot right there within town. All right, so what do I not like about Castle Rock? Unless you are a remote worker, you're most likely going to be commuting either 20 minutes north into the Denver Tech Center or 20 minutes south into Colorado Springs. Which brings me to my second point of my dislikes on this list, is the fact that there aren't a ton of employment opportunities within Castle Rock itself. Now, unless you're working or you own one of the locally owned shops or small businesses within town, you are going to be commuting unless you're a remote worker. And then one of the most prominent things to think about is the fact that Castle Rock is situated right along a stretch of the I-25 highway that runs north and south through Colorado, but it's a very flat area of the state, which means that when we have a bad storm come in, a lot of times this section of I-25 will get shut down because the wind just whips right through that highway. So keep that in mind, that sometimes you might get stranded either outside of Castle Rock or right in Castle Rock until that highway opens. All right, and our third suburb that made our list is Broomfield, Colorado. Now, Broomfield is located right in between Denver and Boulder, which is why Broomfield made the list, because the location is so convenient and allows for you to get that suburb feel while still having really, really easy access to Boulder, about a 15-minute drive, and really, really easy access into Denver, and again, another 15-minute drive. Broomfield's location also lends itself to having some amazing views of the Rocky Mountains and the Boulder Flatirons. Broomfield has a population of 72,000, which is right around the same population as Castle Rock had. The difference between Castle Rock and Broomfield is really going to be that downtown kind of like charming Main Street feel. Broomfield does not have this as of yet. They did just approve a new development that should be completed within the next 2 to 4 years, which is going to give that feel of that downtown central hub of locally owned shops and restaurants. So while Broomfield doesn't have it yet, it is coming. And because Broomfield doesn't have a central Main Street area, it can feel like a pretty sleepy suburb. So a lot of times people will head into either Louisville, Arvada, or even Denver or Boulder to go out to dinner or have a night out. One of the top things that draws people into the Broomfield area is the fact that it feeds into the Boulder Valley School District. And the Boulder Valley School District is consistently one of the top 2 districts in the entire state. So by coming into the Broomfield area, you get the perk of feeding into the Boulder Valley School District without having the Boulder prices. All right, so let's talk about home prices in Broomfield. The average home price is $637,000, but much like Castle Rock, you can kind of run the gamut as far as home prices go. You can step into a 2-bedroom, 1-bath condo for $365,000, all the way up to $3.2 million for a 6-acre estate with a private pond and everything in between. Broomfield kind of has 2 different sections of housing. There is the old Broomfield that has the 50s and 60s built brick ranches with some cool mid-century aspects to it in that section as well. And then you also have these planned unit development, HOA tract housing, which is more prevalent in Broomfield. All right, so what do I like about Broomfield and why did it make the list? Mainly because of its location. I love the fact that it is a sleepy little suburb right between Denver and Boulder, which allows you to step into those Boulder Valley schools without having the Boulder prices, which would take your average home price up by about $400,000. I also love to see that the city is investing in itself via this city hub that it is developing. And that development should be completed by 2027 and will consist of local owned shops, restaurants, some office space, as well as residential housing. All right, so let's talk about the dislikes about Broomfield. I have to talk about the fact that it does not have a main street or a city center. But again, that's coming down the road. The restaurant scene in Broomfield definitely leaves something to be desired. While there are a couple locally owned chef-driven restaurants in Broomfield, they're very few and far between. So a lot of residents will find themselves venturing out to nearby towns to get a notable bite to eat. And my last dislike about Broomfield is the fact that it does definitely feel like a true suburb. There's not a ton of activity happening in Broomfield. Because the city does not yet have that city center Main Street area, the city doesn't host a lot of activities. You won't find a, Christmas parade put on by the city or anything like that. But hopefully that will change once this development comes to fruition. All right, and that's all I have for you. I hope you enjoyed this list of the top 3 suburbs that I personally think exist in the Denver area. If you have any questions or want to chat about anything I mentioned today, please feel free to hit me up on that number or that email that is popping up below. See you next time.